Hello and welcome back. Today, we're going to talk about how to use the video tutorials feature, or how to get access to the video tutorials. We'll talk a little bit more about the layout and all that so that we can get on the same page. Not all cPanel users are aware that you can actually get access to the video tutorials that come together with cPanel. cPanel itself actually offers you a lot of basic tutorials within its website, so that you'll get access to understanding of using features. You don't need to think or figure out how do you use this feature or how do you use that feature, because we're not going to be able to cover every single feature in this video course. So you need to check out those tutorials too. In fact, what we're trying to do in this course is cover videos that are really not covered often, more in-depth views, rather than just how to use cPanel in general. Once you log in with cPanel, what you need to do is scroll all the way down to the bottom and click on Documentation. At this page, you will be able to access the video tutorials. As you can see, there are a variety of different types of documentation, like videos and written documentation. In the past, cPanel would add the video tutorials in the side of the cPanel, but now it is actually on the outside. I want to make sure that you understand that so you know where to go if you ever need to get access to some basic video training. Now, what I also want to mention is the user interface. Some of you will have different user interface than what you're seeing on the screen here, and that typically is because of the style of a hosting company. You can actually change the style. Most of you will have something that looks like this, and it really depends on your web hosting company. Some web hosting companies will actually customize the cPanel with their own user interface, with their own icons and all of that. What actually holds true and stays the same is the actual words on the sections and on the actual icons. The icons sometimes will be slightly different. The reason why I'm mentioning this to you is because some people might be confused because their interface looks a little bit different for them. What you can do is, up at the top, you can click on this little button here and click on Change Style. If you click this, you will be sent to this page. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more so that you can see it much clearer. So, there are different styles and different skins, as we call them, and the basic one looks like this. Then, we have the dark version. But, if you'll notice, the icons are very similar and very much the same. The only difference is the background. The light version is the same as well. I would say the majority of you probably have something like this. Now, this is the very old style. Some of you will have this as well, and you'll see this, but at the end of the day, it's all the same. However, if you notice, the similarities are the section name and then, of course, the actual name of the option. So, for example, File Manager will always be File Manager and so forth. So, like I said, depending on the style that you choose, it might look slightly different. But at the end of the day, typically the things that do not change are the actual titles of the options. File Manager is going to be File Manager across the board. You're going to see different sections. Some of these sections will be different. Some, as you can see, you can actually move around. I can move this section further down here. Just keep in mind that yours might be a little bit lower or yours might be higher. Really, depending on the web hosting company, some will leave it at default and some will get all fancy and move things around and customize it with their own logo. But it's all the same thing at the end of the day, unless you're using a web hosting company that is not using cPanel, which are very few. So let me just run through this real quick. You have files, you have File Manager, you have images, and you have directory privacy, which enables you to tell the system who can actually access certain directories. We have FTP accounts, and we have Backup Wizard, which we'll show you how to use later on. We have disk usage here. That shows you how much disk space you have left. Then, of course, you have databases, which is PHPMyAdmin, and which is where you're going to actually look at the database. But you'll need to create a database first, which you can do either here or here. You don't really need these options here, as these are for advanced users. Then, you have domain names such as Site Publisher, add-on domains, subdomains, redirects, and more. we're not really going to cover this, but subdomains, as you know, it's basically adding a keyword .yourdomain.com. So it's going to be a subdomain of the domain. Then, of course, you have email. You're going to be able to create email accounts here. You're going to be able to create autoresponders, and in this case, the autoresponder is just going to respond with an email. So, you could set up an email address and tell people to email you to this address, and you'll be sent an automatic response, like an email with a secret code or something. You could also forward all emails from one email to another email here. We have email authentication, which we'll talk about more later. We'll have Spam Assassin, which will enable you to protect your email address from spam. Then we have metrics like AW stats. There are other metrics as well, but these are different types of stats. Then, of course, you have security. IP Blocker allows you to block IP addresses, and Hotlink Protection is great as well. So, if you click on Hotlink Protection, what this will allow you to do is, for example, if you've uploaded a bunch of zip files and don't want so-and-so, let's say some website linking to the zip files of yours and then getting people to download the zip files, then you can actually prevent other websites from linking to you and essentially using up your bandwidth. Then you have software. The majority of these you will not really use. You will run into Softoculous, which we'll talk about later down the road. Then, of course, you have advanced options like cron jobs, which you will usually set up when you install a web script, and all these other things you won't really use as much. You will use error pages, which we'll show you in a different video as well. Then we've got preferences, which is where you just change style, change language, and all of that, and change your password. And then, of course, you have Softoculous.